Welcome back, everyone, to our seventh #HireMe2022 guest speaker panel series, and hosted by bcjobs.ca. So my name is Chelsea, as you can see in my name, and I'll be your BC Jobs host for today's panel. So a bit of background on our panels. This spring, we're hosting our panel series every 3 weeks, where we have 3 special guest speakers from various sectors join us for a little Q&A on what's new with their organizations and to talk about the job market and hiring in BC. As you may know, BC Jobs is Western Canada's biggest online jobs board, and you can also check out our Innovators podcast to learn more about what industry leaders are saying about the job market. And before we get started here today, I want to encourage the audience to type your questions for the panelists into the chat box at any point, and we will get to your questions during our Q&A. So today we'll be offering a job candidate pitch event right before we start the audience Q&A, and 3 candidates will be selected for a 30-second pitch to tell our guest speakers about yourself and your experience. The person with the best pitch will then receive a 30-minute resume consultation with BC Jobs. So when we get to this part of the panel today, I'll provide some instructions on how to nominate yourself to give a short pitch. Don't worry, I'm not going to pick anybody at random. Okay, so let's get some introductions going here. I'm going to pass the virtual mic over to Erin Girard, People Operations and Talent Manager at Spare. Erin, welcome back to our panel. It's great to have you with us again. And please tell us a little bit about yourself and Spare.
Thanks, Chelsea. I'm excited to be back. Hi, everyone. My name is Erin. I am from Spare or Spare Labs. We are a transportation SaaS company based in Vancouver. We are a little over 70 people at the moment, and I've been with Spare for 2.5 years now. We were 18 people when I started, and we've basically doubled in size every year. A little bit about what's happening in the future for us without going into too much detail, because I know we'll touch on it later on, but we're looking at doubling in size again this year. So we're hiring for a ton of different positions.
Wow, that's super exciting. All right. Next up, I'd like to introduce Rhett Ohlsen, Marketing Manager at Aquatic Informatics. Rhett, thanks for joining us today. And please tell us a bit about yourself and Aquatic Informatics.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for the invite. It's great to be here. I'm Marketing Manager at Aquatic Informatics. We are a software company in the water space. So if you think about all the pipes underneath us, all the drinking water compliance, all the lakes, all the reservoirs, there's lots of sensors, a lot of sampling, lots of data behind the scenes. And so our software essentially brings it all together to make it actionable, whether or not you're an agency like Water Survey Canada or a city like Vancouver. We help with decision support and, making sure our water is safe.
Awesome. Thanks, Rhett. And then last but not least, I'd like to introduce Monique Snyder, Human Resources Generalist at Encepta. Monique, great to have you on the panel, and please tell us a bit about yourself and Encepta.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chelsea, and welcome everyone to the session. Hope to get some good connections out of this. Like Chelsea mentioned, I'm the HR generalist at Encepta. We specialize in telecommunications contracting for companies like Rogers, Shaw, TELUS. So we're very much in the field services and design space for those companies. We're also super excited to be involved in many 5G projects around Vancouver and throughout Canada. And we're looking for roles in design, field services, and software development is an area that we're also bolstering some of our work as well. So happy to connect with everyone, and please have some questions for us.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Monique. And sorry, Erin, thanks for earlier. I forgot to thank you for your great introduction. So now that we know our panelists a little bit better, I've got a few of my own questions that I'm going to start us off with before we move over to the pitch event and our audience Q&A. So these next questions are geared more towards like what's new at other companies for 2022, but I've also thrown in a couple questions under the theme of resume and interview tips. So I'll start off with Rhett. So Aquatic Informatics is the world's largest water data management company. I actually didn't know this before you came on today. So you guys were acquired by another company in 2020 and recently acquired Sedaru, I don't know if I said that right, last year. What do all these acquisitions mean for the growth of Aquatics Informatics? More hiring?
Yeah, plenty of hiring. We just finished a big sprint, and there'll be plenty more because there's incredible growth in the industry. These acquisitions are evidence that as more and more utilities and organizations are focused on integrating systems, cybersecurity, and just modernizing how they do things away from Excel. It means we're looking for web developers, even roles in accounting and marketing. I just hired 3 folks on my team. So it's a really immature space, water, that we're trying to transform and bring that maturity to the forefront.
Exciting stuff. All right. Okay, my next question is for Monique. So Encepta is a fast-growing tech startup here in Vancouver that is involved in telecommunications, utilities, and municipalities. What is it like to work at Encepta?
Yeah, Encepta is an awesome company to work for. I work with a group of super intelligent and fun people, and it's really nice to know that the company is actively working to improve what we do constantly, and not just from the perspective of what we deliver to our clients, but also the experience of being an Encepta team member, or what we call an Enceptan, with the mindset of constantly improving or finding a better way of doing something. Sometimes that can lend to a bit of creative chaos when changing things up. But some of the byproducts of that chaos are some really cool initiatives like a young professionals networking group that we launched in tandem with our parent company, RAM Consulting. We have a Sun Run team that we just did a few weeks ago, and we're in the works of making a recreational soccer league. We also had the idea to launch a podcast where we interview and highlight some of the awesome people who we work with. So we do a monthly episode on that. And this month's theme is about mental health for May's Mental Health Awareness. So very excited to record that tomorrow in the office. And we're celebrating Encepta's 10th birthday this summer. So we're super keen to bring people together, have social events. And I'm in charge of making a playlist for the event. And it's going to be all music from 2012 when the company was founded. So it's going to be some good throwback songs, which will be great. But, aside from the fun and social things we focus on to make Encepta great, we really put an effort into recognizing and rewarding our staff for a job well done. Career growth is equally as important for us to our staff. So I'm constantly working with managers to help develop career paths for our team. And for an example, we actually just promoted someone from a project coordinator to a project manager within 2 months of them joining us. So if you work hard and have a dedicated mindset, you'll be rewarded. So that's a bit about what Encepta is up to. And we're definitely looking to expand our team this year a bit.
Amazing. I can't believe 2012 is 10 years ago. So many good songs from that year.
Definitely.
Did any of you guys win? Sorry, go ahead.
I'll share the playlist with you, Chelsea.
Totally. I would definitely be interested. Did any of you guys win the Sun Run?
It was a bit of internal competition, but we were definitely not as fast as like the fastest people who finish it in like twice as quick as I did. But anyways, it was
good for you guys. You try. That's
yeah, we tried.
That's what counts. Yes
exactly.
Awesome. Okay, I've got a question for Erin. All right. It sounds like you guys have some exciting things going on at Spare. You've just announced a new exciting partnership with Lyft. I think this week you mentioned, and last November you raised $18 million in Series A funding. So these are huge achievements. Can you tell us a little bit more about them?
Thanks, Chelsea. Yeah, we're really excited about this. There's been a lot of hard work that's been put into all of these things with some incredible people. We've had a really quite a lean team up until we did get that Series A funding in November. We've almost doubled in size since then. So we're on a really big growth trajectory. And we've been so incredibly blown away with this partnership with Lyft. Everyone at Lyft has been amazing to work with and really supportive of our growth as a small budding transportation SaaS company. And so this partnership means big, big things for us. Not only just like launching us right into the spotlight really of the transportation space, which it absolutely has, along with all of these events that we've attended in the last couple of months and conferences and things like that. It's exciting to get to this kind of spot where people know who we are now. We've, like I said, run on such a small, lean team up until this point, really building our product suite out and you know, making our mark in the world. And it's amazing to see all of this come to fruition and get that $18 million in seed funding from Inovia, led by Inovia, which is an incredible VC, and then this partnership with Lyft and just being associated with these amazing companies has been a wild journey so far, and it's just going to keep going and keep growing.
Be proud of all your achievements. I mean, this is big news. Well done. Okay, I've got another question for Rhett. Resumes, are they even important anymore? What are the do's and don'ts for resumes these days, in your opinion?
Very important. Results. So I want to look at not just what you're doing, how you're doing it, but the outcomes. Even if it's a process that you implemented, you know, that is noteworthy. Keeping things brief, you know, shorter sentences, but complete sentences, and focus on the highlights. You know, we don't need to know that you worked at Safeway in high school, but depending on, you know, your career history, there are, you know, valuable skills developed in those roles. I bagged groceries at Safeway. Customer service is huge. It's, you know, helped me develop as a leader. So, you know, just being clear on those results, how you're achieving things, and keeping it to one page.
Keep it short. Okay, these are great tips. Thank you, Rhett. All right, my next question from Monique. What are your top 3 important interview tips for impressing a hiring manager?
Okay, I have a unique mindset about recruiting and interviewing, and I feel like they're very much similar to like dating or courting people, because both the candidate and the company are looking for the right match to start this like business employment relationship. So you should keep that in mind when interviewing as well. And I don't mean like ghosting or flings or Tinder or whatever. I mean like a serious, committed business relationship. So, you know, the top 3 things that I suggest to people for interviews are, before the interview, it's really important to prep. So what I like to do is, like, I'm a bit old school for this, but it really helps me get into the right mindset of interviewing. I print out the job description or the job ad. I highlight things that are important or make notes of areas that I have experience with. So like, say if they want to know how much recruiting experience I have, I'll just like make a little note and I'll say like, have handled recruiting experience for 4 years or something like that, just so I'm confident and know what I'm talking about. And also, you know, write down questions that you might have about what you're reading or about the company. When you put yourself in that mindset of knowing what your past work history is and your curiosities about the company, it's going to put you in a much more prepared state of mind for the interview. The second tip I would have is first impressions count, even virtually. So consider how you're presenting yourself, whether it's in person or what the background is of your Zoom call. You should be mindful of those kinds of things. And my advice to people is always, like, don't be afraid to be the most overdressed person in the meeting. People are going to notice more if you showed up in sweatpants than they would if you looked kind of like a polished professional when showing up to an interview. So don't forget to keep that in mind. And say if you can't clear up the background of your Zoom call, if your office space is like a multifunctional kind of room, maybe just put on the blur or like a virtual background, and it's a bit less distracting than if your like cat walks through the background of your virtual interview. And then the third thing I would suggest, and this is kind of a post-interview tip, but following up with a thank you email or note can go a really long way and separate you from the rest of the applicant group. And it can show kind of like that mutual confirmation that, yes, this was a good, productive conversation, and I'd like to continue with the company. Because I know there have been people who have followed up with that note and they ended up being the ones that we hired. So those are my 3 tips.
All 3 very important tips. Thank you for sharing, Monique. Perfect.
You're welcome.
Okay, and my last question for today is for Erin. And Erin, I'd like to know, how important is a LinkedIn profile for job candidates in your opinion?
In my opinion, a LinkedIn profile is almost more important than a resume. I think that working in the, thanks, Rhett, working in the technology space, especially, we encourage people to bring their entire authentic selves to work. And I can really see that from your LinkedIn profile. I can see what you're passionate about. I can see what you engage with. And also, to Rhett's point, I can see a 1-page summary of your work experience in the exact same format as everyone else. So I love a polished LinkedIn profile. I don't think that your LinkedIn headshot needs to be the most professional if you're going into the SaaS space and you're moving into that technology space. It all depends on what you're looking for. But I always immediately go to a LinkedIn profile from application. It's one of the first things I look at.
Do people need a banner in your opinion?
Ooh, I like the banners that show a little bit of personality. I love that when people have mountains. I love when people have the things that they like to do in the background. If not, then a banner of your current company goes a long way, because it shows that you're engaged with the brand that you currently work for. And that does go a long way for me as well. My banner is a Spare banner, of course, because I am the biggest Spare brand ambassador.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's actually a question I get asked sometimes by job candidates, like, how good do I need to make my LinkedIn profile? And I say, that banner will go a long way. It helps you to pop out a bit more. So thanks for validating what I was thinking. All right. Well, thank you 3 for answering all of my questions. It's great to know more about your organizations and the exciting things going on for you this year, and some great tips for resumes and interviews. Next up, before we dive into the questions from the audience, I'm going to draw 3 names and invite each person to give a 30-second pitch about themselves. The person with the best pitch will receive an email from me later with an invitation to a 30-minute resume consultation with BC Jobs. So I'm just going to pop some instructions here into the chat box. So if you're interested in giving a 30-second pitch to our panelists today, all you have to do in the chat is just type your name, your location, and your area of expertise. And the first 3 people, oh wow, boom, Artem already plugged their name in. Awesome. And the first 3 people will get the chance to practice some of their public speaking skills. So if you've been looking for a job for a while and you want some practice, I'm sure everyone has, some rusty public speaking skills. This is a good chance to kind of brush up on that and put yourself out there and get a little practice in. So don't be shy. Feel free to pop your name into the chat box with some information about you. And we'll start off with Artem. So Artem, thank you so much for being so brave to volunteer yourself. So feel free to mute yourself and pop on your camera Excellent. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Chelsea. It's not my first time at these events. I finally mustered some courage to speak, so I came prepared.
Woo!
I had this.
You came prepared. Well done.
Yeah, I
I'm
had
proud
this
of you.
chat post ready in advance.
Eager beaver.
That's why it was so fast. So anyway, thanks for selecting me. My name is Artem. I am relatively new in Canada. I came here from Moscow, Russia, where I worked for 12 years in several IT support positions, moving through the ranks from technical support engineer to my latest position as IT manager. So I came here with the skills, and while I still look for those kind of positions to continue my career here in Canada, I'm also not considering, I'm actually actively working on a move to a data field. I'm taking a data engineering boot camp, and in a few months, I hopefully will be on the lookout for those positions as well.
Awesome. Follow-up question for you, Artem. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I usually tend to deviate from those kind of questions because my previous experience has shown that plans don't quite work out to the same way as you expect them to be. But currently in 5 years, I see myself working in a cloud tech company. That is my kind of ambition, because my previous companies were more of a non-cloud, non-tech. So, and then this is the field I really want to get into. And ideally, I'd say I would be using some cutting edge technology working at a company that I really feel strongly about.
Okay, good answer. I don't know if any of our panelists have a follow-up question for you. Oh, I've put them on the spot now. Oh.
How do you like Canada so far?
Oh, I love it. I mean, well, as I said, I'm relatively new because I came here last year. So I've had quite a bit of time in Vancouver to explore the city and the surroundings, and I love it, yeah.
Well, you came to a good city with a lot of tech opportunities. Good choice.
Well, but I've been looking for a job for a year, so I have another point of view on that.
Don't give up hope. You'll find something.
I don't.
Hang in there. Okay, thanks so much for your pitch today, Artem. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, our next brave soul is Pablo. Pablo, welcome. You've already got your camera on. Excellent. If you want to unmute yourself and give your pitch, we are all ears.
Hello, and nice to meet everybody here. This is my first time here, and I didn't actually expect to be saying anything, but here I am.
Well done.
Yeah, I'm kind of nervous, but here it goes. So previous to wanting to work in software development, I worked as a supervisor in biotech. My main responsibilities there were basically to manage people, the resources and projects to meet specific deadlines. So, and the quotas that we needed to meet basically for manufacturing our products. I wanted to transition away from biotech because I wanted to eliminate working with dangerous chemicals all the time. We're in close contact with them, and because of that, it did start affecting my health. Also, due to how companies work and logistics, we work very early hours, so I'd be up at 3 or 4 a.m. We didn't have any flexibility in that, and so I wanted to change that in terms of my lifestyle and just going forward into the future. The work that I did in software development are very similar. I think software development is a little bit more creative in that I don't have to follow a set recipe to create something, and there is like 20,000 different ways to achieve the same result, which is a bit different than what I used to do because manufacturing is very standard operating procedure heavy. Like you have to follow everything to the letter. And as someone starting who had a career before, and I worked about 6 years like after I graduated from university, starting from the bottom has been a very challenging journey, I guess. Starting to code basically from nothing and then attending a boot camp afterwards to educate myself has been quite a challenge. And I'm finally done with the boot camp and now I'm on to my next challenge. And that's basically looking for work in the tech industry, which so far it's only been the second week, so it hasn't been crazy yet, but you know, who knows what'll happen as time keeps going forward. So yeah, that's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Okay, great pitch. And yeah, biotech sounds a bit hazardous, so maybe it's a good thing you want to change to a different area of tech. I don't know if any of our panelists have a follow-up question for you. Otherwise, I'll ask one. Which
go ahead. I was going to say it can be very brave and daunting to know switch your careers after being pretty well established in there. So kudos to you. And I used to work in kind of like a software development focused company. And one of my favorite questions to ask candidates was, what's your favorite programming language and why?
So currently, I know JavaScript, Ruby, TypeScript, and so I don't know too many languages yet. The one that I'm most comfortable with is JavaScript, and I think it makes the most sense to me. I was learning C# recently, and it is very confusing jumping into a whole new language. But the language that I like the idea behind is TypeScript. I feel like forcing certain types onto the variables or basically anything in the programming language that you're working with is interesting. So it prevents errors before it happens almost. So by having those things there, I feel like that's an interesting concept because I was involved with safety at work and things like our idea is always to prevent issues before it happens. And so in programming to have that, I think is a very interesting thing. Also in C#, it seems to be kind of built in. I could be wrong, but I noticed you also have to state specific types or like what kind of data it is that you're working with. And that kind of like all ties in. I think TypeScript is turning into what is more my favorite language.
It sounds like a very smart language. All right. And thank you so much, Pablo, for being a brave soul and pitching yourself to our candidates. Well done. Okay, our last pitch candidate is Chris. Chris, perfect. You've got your camera on. Feel free to unmute yourself and pitch away.
Hi, thank you. I actually have sort of a similar path to Pablo. I worked for about 6 years after finishing my undergrad degree in chemical engineering, and I was in beer and wine. I guess I was looking for something a little bit more technical. I was in a supervisory position and kind of decided that at this point of my career and in my personal life too, that if I wanted to make a career switch, that was kind of the right time for me. And similar to Pablo, I didn't do a whole lot of coding before. I had one computer science course in my first year of school in my undergrad degree, which was, I can't believe that was like 10 years ago now. But I started doing a little bit of coding online. A couple of friends gave me some recommendations for websites to check out about a year ago today, actually, last summer. And I started thinking I really like this and I want to learn more about it. So I ended up taking a boot camp as well in web development and learned a lot. It was pretty intense, a lot of material that we covered in a short amount of time. And I'm still kind of reviewing the notes and everything we learned from there and trying to build on that. And look at kind of next steps for getting a role in tech and going from there.
Very interesting. Do you have a specific like area or industry of tech that you want to transition into, or you're open to all or any?
Honestly, I think I'm a little bit open. On one hand, I think I would like to get some development experience because that's what I just kind of finished taking schooling for. I want to continue building those skills. But at the same time, my background is people management. I managed people for 6 years. So I also want to have, I think my dream job would be something that would be a marriage of the two, being, solving technical problems, but also working with people, whether that's, working with coworkers or having a team or clients or potential clients. And as I'm trying to network and learn more and more about tech and software and all the different types of companies and roles there's all kinds of different roles and all kinds of different jobs. So I'm just trying to gather information and figure out where I see myself long term. So yeah, that's part of why I'm here today. So
perfect. Well, thanks for joining us. And I'm sure there are roles out there that kind of merge, managing people and solving technical issues. I don't know if Spare or Encepta or Aquatic Informatics has positions like that, but I'm sure they do exist out there.
Yeah, they absolutely do. We hire tech leads, so technical leads. They're not necessarily people managers. Those are the engineering roles. But what they do is mentor and coach other engineers from a technical perspective. So that really helps our team decide on their own career path as well. In a technical lead position, you can see which you're kind of more geared towards if you really like solving those technical problems and continuing to coach people to do that, or if you are really liking the people interactions in that management portion, and you can choose that as your career path. We have 2 different career paths for all of our roles. One is an individual contributor and one is a management position. So you can really see which track you feel the most comfortable in that kind of 50-50 technical lead, management support type role. It's a really interesting, unique role.
Very cool. So there you go, Chris. These roles do exist.
And if I may hop on that bandwagon, 2 kind of complementary roles stood out. User experience. So the people designing the product experience. So a little bit of that web dev as far as what's possible, and then taking in that voice of customer. That user perspective and how the product is literally laid out, just like this Zoom interface, as well as product managers. So not as deep technical, but more interfacing with customer and market and synthesizing what those market needs are into product speak and language and direction. So depending on how creative you are and how technical or customer facing you might want to be, they can be very fascinating roles.
Awesome. Well, I hope you find this information on these types of roles helpful, Chris, in your pursuit of job hunting.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Okay, I hope you made note of those titles. I am certainly making note myself, so I know what they actually mean in the future. All right. So thank you 3, Chris, Pablo, and Artem, for being brave enough to speak in front of a big audience today. So well done. And, thank you for your excellent pitches. Keep an eye on your email inbox later for a message from me inviting you to a resume consultation later this week. So I think we can maybe move over to our next segment of Q&A from the audience. So for those of you who have questions for our panelists, feel free you can raise your hand. For those of you who don't know how to raise your hand in Zoom, if you look at the bottom of your screen, and I just realized I'm in the I'm not in the app. I'm on the web page version. So at the bottom of my screen, I see a reactions symbol with a smiley face. So if you click on that, you'll see the raised hand option in there. So that's how you can find that. Another alternative, if you have a question, feel free to type your question into the chat box, and I'll just do first come, first serve with questions today. So you can gear your question towards all 3 of our panelists, or you can direct your question to one company in particular. Totally up to you. But yeah, we'll start taking questions now for our guest speakers. And while you guys are thinking of some questions, because I don't think anybody put any questions in the chat. I'm just having a look here. Okay, perfect. Artem, our brave soul again. Feel free to ask your question. Thank you.
All right. I decided to be brave up until the very end. All right. So my question is for, I guess, for Erin and for Rhett. Okay. And it is related to my kind of anticipated career move, like learning data engineering, seeing as both Spare and Aquatic Informatics rely heavily on data, I imagine. I mean, it seems like these products should use a lot of data. So how do you, how big do you have a large staff of data specialists within your companies? And do you hire those kind of newly grads, so to speak, people who decided to change their career recently, so they might not have that much professional experience in the field, but they have up-to-date skill set that they recently acquired? That is my question.
Thanks, Artem. I think probably a ton of data from Rhett. It sounded like from your pitch, Rhett. We do have data, Artem, but we don't have a data engineering team at this stage. We do have a data science and analytics team. So basically taking the data and providing insights based on that. So both company insights and insights for our customers. And so that is the team that we have right now that is growing quite a bit. So no data engineering team at this stage, but I definitely think we'll at least hire one in the next year and start building out that team. But Rhett, I'll pass it to you. I'm sure you have a team.
Yeah, as a data management software company, we have a team of data scientists and data analysts. These are folks that kind of look externally at market needs, customer needs, and then internally with regards to the data that we're processing to then leverage technology like AI and big data to then maximize what's already going through the system. So a very tangible, example is, your pipe maybe has more capacity than it can handle, so it's going to burst. Leveraging that sensor data that we are already having with various parameters and artificial intelligence to, proactively alert, the city, well, hey, like you got to close off some valves here. Anyways, there's this data scientist team, there's this data engineering team, which then helps translate those hypotheses into like bots and little apps to then again test that hypothesis, determine that product market fit. And then there's folks that kind of take it another level deeper into like the commercialization, if you will, to then like, okay, can we commercialize this? Is there a market for this? How much would people actually pay for this? And then there's the software developers, the software engineers, and all those folks that are in the weeds, building new features and tools to just get more from the data from an automation perspective. So lots.
All right. I hope that answers your question, Artem.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you very much. My question was not exactly about, I mean, I do understand that you have a lot of people working with data, but it was more about the hiring strategy for those disciplines, for those fields, like whether it's professionals, or do you consider like people with less experience overall?
So from a co-op perspective type of thing, or an entry level, really anyone that can come with an analytical mind, that can quickly understand the market, right, and start connecting the dots and forming those hypotheses. Really, like if you come with the right mindset, you can absolutely find a place here.
Okay, thank you very much. It's good to know.
Thank you, Artem, for your questions. Excellent. Pablo, I saw your hand raised. Did you still have a question?
Yes, I kind of did, I suppose. Now I'm second guessing it, but I'll ask anyway. I'll ask Monique. So you mentioned that your company basically went from like 18 people to about 70-ish or more people, right? And basically you plan to increase in size again. What would you say was the biggest growing pain, basically doubling the size of a company like that in such a short period of time? And how do you keep the company culture to be like a positive one and a good one, even as the company is growing fast and growing big like that?
That question might have been directed for Erin, because I think
Oh,
she was
Erin?
the one who spoke about that growth. But before I let her kind of finish off that question, I will talk about Encepta's growth, because we did a similar kind of growth spurt right around the time that I started as well. We went from, I think, 70 people to 130 in about 8 months. So that was a lot of growth in a short amount of time. Definitely some of the pain points that come with that are ensuring that the subject matter experts at the company are not burned out over training all the new hires, because depending on what like the competency level is of the new person starting, whether they're junior or more experienced, there's always a learning curve when you start at a new company. When I started at Encepta, I booted up Outlook for like my first day, and my manager kind of laughed. She's like, "Oh no, we use Gmail for everything." So, you know, even like the technology side of translating over to the Google Workspace is a bit of a learning curve. In terms of ways to keep the culture strong, I think it's really important for people like the managers, HR, and colleagues to stay in contact. And we do have a lot of initiatives to create kind of social connections as well. So I think that's the best way that we've done that so far. But if Erin wants to kind of talk about her experience at Spare, I would love to hear how you guys approached it too.
Absolutely. Thanks, Monique. Yes, it's so important to keep those social connections. Not only have we doubled in size twice, we've doubled in size twice during a pandemic. So we were 18 people when I started in 2019. We were 30 people at the end of 2020, 55 people at the end of last year, and we're 75 people now. So we've done a big growth spurt during the pandemic when everything went online, and culture is not about office perks anymore. Do you have a foosball table, ping pong table, free, you know, kombucha on tap, and things that are connecting you in the lunchroom? We had a really big foodie culture. We were really big into like ramen and eating lunch together and having breakfast together and drinking coffee together. And that was a big part of our culture. And we had to make a big shift during the pandemic, especially as we onboarded more people. And we really made this big shift to be a mission-driven organization. So we were driven by what we're able to do in communities, how we're able to build communities. And we really were able to get people to rally around that, especially as we grew. So that is a big number one piece, that everyone's kind of working towards the same goal, and we understand what that goal is. So that's a shift that I think has come during the pandemic, regardless of how, you know, you increase in size. We had to do it while we were doubling in size. But I think a lot of companies have had to make that same kind of shift. The other thing that I would mention is having a common language. So we have a set of guiding principles that really dictate how we act, and we have a common language around what those are and what that means. So creating a common language and all driving towards that same goal and that same mission is really how we've been able to keep our culture alive. We do a ton of fun remote events and things like that as well, but I think that connection is really driven by having that common language that is specific to Spartians, and everybody understanding that during the onboarding process. So that's kind of how we've kept that going. And then we do have the, you know, virtual breakfast and virtual lunch and things like that we still do. But I think the important part is like at the core, what are we doing and what is our goal and how are we all working towards that together?
Awesome. Does that answer your question, Pablo?
Yes, thank you very much for both of your answer to my question. I had the wrong person, but it worked out anyways because it applied to both of your companies. But yeah, it's great to hear. Thank you.
Thanks, Pablo.
Awesome. So I see a question in the chat from Sophie. Sophie, did you want to come on screen and ask your question to our guest speakers? Perfect. Hi,
everyone.
welcome.
Sorry, my background has not been very presentable, but
That's okay. We won't judge.
Sounds good. So my question is, I guess just to the general board, how important is it for a web development candidate to have personal projects, and what do you look for in this area?
Good question.
I can take that one on, Sophie, because we are hiring a web developer right now. I would say for the most part, like in a lot of roles, it doesn't hurt. But for web developers, at least for us, we get so many applications for this role. So anything that you can do to set yourself apart is important. Having those personal projects. I've had people that have created personal projects that actually relate to what we do at Spare because they're so excited. And those kinds of things really set you apart. So I would say anything that you can do to make yourself stand out is important. Add those things to your application, direct the recruiter and hiring manager to those things. We do look at them, absolutely. I would look at a personal project and a LinkedIn profile over a resume every single day.
Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, to jump in of your work, whether it's websites or little apps, depending on your skill set that you can kind of show and have a some kind of portfolio, anything to stand out. You know, as a hiring manager, you have hundreds of resumes to sift through. Make it easy for us to pick you. Anything to stand out, and a lot of the time that's personality, what makes you unique, your hobbies, things that aren't necessarily professional, but personal. Like you are a Harry Potter fanatic, for example. It helps put a face to the name.
Great tips. I guess
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Sophie. That's all you.
I was just going to follow up. How, in terms of those non-professional things, not something you would see on a resume or a LinkedIn profile, how would you want that to be presented? Like, just naturally come up in conversation, or do you ask about that? So
definitely on the resume. So I've seen layouts where they have kind of a personal section, either like up top with their name and kind of a little bit of who they are, or as like a footnote, like hobbies and interests, that type of thing. I've seen very graphically designed resumes. I don't think those are the best. You only have a page, like I was mentioning, so maximize that real estate as best you can.
Awesome, thank you.
Sophie, one thing that I did on my resume for my current job that really caught the eye of my manager was I had some of my skills listed in a row, like HR management skills, software skills, etc. And I kind of ranked them by displaying boxes of competencies. And then I put baking as the last one, and I put it with the most boxes of competencies. So it's very subtle, but it shows a bit of your personal, your personality, and a bit about yourself. And it's a good conversation piece when you're in an interview as well. And another thing, just as advice to everyone, personal branding is very important from a recruiter's perspective. So if you took the time even to match the banner of your LinkedIn to the format of your resume, that is a 10 out of 10 in my books. If you have that attention to detail, I love it. And it just shows that you're really caring about your application process too.
Amazing, thank you.
Awesome. And maybe just before I get to Pablo, just to add on to what Monique was saying about personal branding, I was on a panel last fall, and one of the panelists was talking about having your email with the domain name, in your name. So registering your name as a website, and then having an email address that had for example, would be Chelsea at chelseasweeney.com, something like that. And because that can really stand out to recruiters in HR. And Monique, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that any kind of personal branding approach is just going to set you apart. So definitely encourage it. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks so much. All right. Sorry, Pablo. I know you had a question. It's all you now.
No worries. There's no rush. I'm nervous every time, so I need that extra second.
It's just practice. You know, the more you ask questions, the less nervous you'll feel.
My question actually is for Rhett. So Aquatic Informatics, basically, yes, deals with data that relates to water, right? And water is a very valuable resource. And so that's like a company value that you're looking to protect, right? Are there other things the company is doing, like other important values the company has that it's working towards other than like the environment and water, perhaps?
All of life. So our purpose is to protect life with timely water information. So that's environmental, that's human, that's communities, that's, you know, sustainability. It wasn't until I really got under the hood as far as what we did that I just felt wow, I am connected to, so the floods, we're all in British Columbia. We all, experienced some impact of the flooding. Our software was a part of that flood mitigation process in those early alertings, where we prevented wastewater and sewage from going up into communities and essentially ruining houses with all kinds of wastewater you could imagine. And, you know, helping inform the emergency response teams and prioritizing communities and regions in that way. Similarly, BC Hydro, for example, managing their dams to ensure that we have energy and that we have, enough of a reservoir to support the local ecosystems. So, as you start to unpack the layers of water and the impact of water, you become very warm and fuzzy. That's the perfect way to describe it about our mission.
Love it.
Thank you. I didn't think the far reaches of what water management actually meant. I was thinking of dams and like municipality water, but I guess thinking outside of the box, as you were saying, with the mitigation of floods and basically a lot of places that could apply that kind of water information is definitely really cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to learn more about aquatic informatics. I had no idea myself. All right. Any other questions from the audience today? Otherwise, I'll have to think up some of my own. Okay. So while you guys are thinking of some questions, a few months ago, I was talking with a podcast speaker actually about education and how important it is to have education on a resume. What are your thoughts on this? Her company was starting to not look at the education part on a resume, and they were just going for the interviews and seeing if the person's enthusiasm and skills kind of matched the job description in that way.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So when we're looking at candidates, we need to evaluate your skill set as a fit to the role. So, a very easy way for me to do that is looking at your training, whether that's post-secondary or courses or certification. They're all complementary, or life experience, right? If you're looking to be a web developer and you've been doing it for 10 years but have no formal training, I'll probe and ask about that experience to see if you're a fit. And so what I'm trying to say is, formal training isn't necessarily the end all, but we are looking for a way to evaluate your skills and abilities and how you'll make a positive contribution.
Okay, good to know. What about at Encepta or Spare?
Yeah, I think that we're coming to kind of a shift where like the equivalent skills and experience has basically as much weight as education. And I think that access to education is still like a privilege of many people in Canada and America. Education is not cheap. And I don't think it's fair for people to be in serious amounts of student debt just to get a degree in order to be a considered candidate. That's something like the system is broken, like we need to change this. But there are also like minimum standards for certain professionals where an educator is needed. education is needed. Like a doctor, you probably need a degree to become a doctor, like, or like a certain level of engineer. But I think where some jobs come into play, like having something like a portfolio or being able to like actively demonstrate how you're competent in the job can be just as effective as, you know, a degree. And an example in like the project management realm is like I've met excellent project managers who never had a formal education or their PMP, and they will never get it because, you know, they've gotten to a point in their career where they're so well established that they don't really need it. So I think that continuous improvement in education is important, but I don't think it's the only factor that should be determining whether we hire someone or not.
Okay, good to know. And for Spare?
Yeah, 100% echo that. Certain roles need it. Do any of our roles at Spare need it? No.
Okay, so I hope that kind of gives the audience hope that, you know, if you don't have some academic credentials, maybe they're not needed for the roles that you're applying for. So keep that in mind. Okay, I see Chris has their hand raised. We'll go with Chris, then back with Pablo.
Hi, this question is for Erin at Spare, but really could apply to all three of you guys. I'm just curious how going from 18 employees in 2019 and then doubling twice, that kind of rapid growth, for the people that have joined the company, let's say after you did, as the company's been growing, is there one or two things in particular that no matter what role you're in is really important to set yourself up for success when you're joining a company that's growing so rapidly, like joining a startup like that?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Thanks for your question. One of the things that we look for that is not something you can get from education, not even something that you get from experience, is just interest and passion, eagerness to learn, coming in with that mindset that you're going to continuously learn and that you're excited about the industry and excited about what we're doing and making every ride possible. That is huge for us. You're never going to learn everything right off the bat. There's just so much information, even as a relatively new company started in 2015, even as a company that has, you know, scaled to 70 people. We have so much information to give you in your first couple of months. So just coming in with an open mind, curiosity, passion, interest, those are all things that will help you immensely starting out your career at Spare, but ultimately anywhere that you go.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for your question. Okay, Pablo, you had your hand up a moment ago.
Yes. Chris kind of stole that question from me. So I had to think of a different question. It was there, now it's gone. Okay. Okay, so that's one of the things I wanted to ask. I assume before COVID, most of the office work was done in office. Has that changed for your companies with how COVID has affected most of it? Is it all remote, or is it all kind of like a hybrid now, or is it a requirement? And how has that changed in terms of how you guys work at your companies? And like, I understand being like a close community and having a good culture is important to companies. And I think it's important for me as well, for someone who's looking for work. And so how have you guys kind of kept that going? I know a little bit of that was answered with like company culture and values and things like that, but in like other ways, like how are you guys still keeping in contact together and working closely as you were before COVID hit and affected us all?
At AQI, we let you decide. Really, you know, if you want to be in office, that's fantastic. It'd be great to hang out and chit chat. If you want to be at work, at home, that's great. If you want a hybrid, that's totally fine too. We'll enable you with whatever tech and software you need. You know, with regards to culture, we try and do 75% online now, you know, like scavenger hunts, you submit photos and stuff, and trivia nights and things like that, all online, and 25% kind of in person, just to help bring people together, because nothing will replace real life. And, you know, those candid conversations over, you know, your beverage of choice. So we really leave it up to you.
Great to hear that. That sounds like a lot of fun. Scavenger hunts. Okay. Pablo, was your question just directed towards aquatic informatics, or is it for all three?
If other people want to answer, that's totally cool too. It's just kind of a broad range question.
Okay, great. And so for Encepta, are you in a hybrid work environment now, or is it more back to office now that we're kind of like, I don't know, in this post-pandemic, moving out of pandemic phase? I don't know what we're in now.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. We can keep labeling it as that. We are definitely kind of in a hybrid model. So a bit of further information about Encepta. We have offices that we own in Victoria and Burnaby. And then we have 2 hubs of workers in Edmonton and Calgary as well, where we rent out co-working spaces when people want to get together and work. So predominantly the Alberta team is mostly remote. And then we see a lot of people going into the office in Victoria and quite a few people coming into the office in Burnaby as well. So it's similar to Rhett's approach, like you kind of decide, but we are kind of finding that the people in Alberta are enjoying the work from home aspect. So we're not in a rush to kind of make another big real estate purchase at this time, but it's worked out pretty well for us. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, great to know. And what about at Spare? I think you've got an office in downtown, right?
We do, yeah. We have an office downtown Vancouver, probably about 30 people max, maybe even 25. So a quarter of our workforce, or I guess 1/3 of our workforce, could fit in the Vancouver office. So we're definitely predominantly remote. We shifted to a remote first workforce at the start of the pandemic, and we said, from this moment on, if you want to be remote, you're absolutely welcome to be remote. We started hiring all across Canada and Europe as well. We have 5 individuals in Europe. We've had a couple of people move to Europe from Canada. So lots of things happening there, and people can work from wherever makes the most sense for them. Recently, we have switched to what we call a flexible work environment. And so not hybrid where you have to go into the office, but flexible as in we encourage you to connect in person wherever you are. We have 3 people in Edmonton, 3 people in Calgary, 7 people in Toronto, 5 people in Halifax. So we encourage people to get together and connect in those areas that they're in as well, and provide kind of budgets for them to get together in person if they choose to do that. We also have specific time for people to come to Vancouver and get together. So we have management offsites. We just did one in Tofino actually a few weeks ago. It was incredible. We have company-wide retreats that we're going to be starting to do next year. In-person meetings with your entire team 2 or 3 times per year. We provide a budget and an opportunity to do that. So lots of opportunity to connect in person if you like as well. So that's what we consider flexible. You can come into the office if you like. You can work from home. You can work from a co-working space. You can get together with other individuals in your area and work in a co-working space. So lots and lots of options there.
Fantastic. Wow. Excellent. Okay. Any other questions coming in? Keep these great questions coming. I guess I'll ask a question while we're waiting for some more questions from our audience. In terms of the positions that your companies are currently hiring for, do you find you're hiring more for junior talent roles or more senior talent roles, or a mix of both?
I just finished the hiring spree of more junior, so like specialist level. And that seems to be the focus of our organization. We're accelerating growth through building out the front lines, if you will, to really amp things up in that way.
Awesome. Okay, good to know. And what about over at Spare?
We have all different levels available right now, all levels open, but a couple of ones that I want to point out from a senior position. We are hiring a new engineering manager. We're hiring PM. We're hiring a business development manager. So we have a few management positions and senior positions open. What I really like about Spare is we focus on hiring leadership first. and then focus on hiring the team that person is going to be leading. Different to where I have worked before, where we hire a ton of juniors and then try and figure out how they are managed. So I really like that approach where we're really strategic about the way that we hire and bringing someone on board who can build that team. So as we hire an engineering manager for that team, we currently have 2, we're hiring a 3rd. So as we hire an engineering manager at that stage, then we'll probably open up 5 or 6 positions for junior engineers as well.
Okay, really cool. Awesome. And at Encepta.
It's all good. Even I stumble saying that. I'm even stumbling right now. I can't even talk. We're hiring kind of like across the board for different levels of experience. We're looking for field specialists, data analysts, looking to maybe bring, we don't have anything posted, but I'm encouraging the client tools software manager to hire another software developer. So keep an eye on our career page. And I haven't really seen anyone in the chat box if they're like a designer, whether it be like civil, municipal, utilities design, any AutoCAD skills. Those are all kind of things that we're looking to bolster our team with. And then also great managers we're always open to. We've got a really exciting portfolio with Rogers Telecommunication. And so we're looking for some project managers there as well. So
awesome.
Keep an eye on our career site.
Very exciting. Excellent. And I guess just building off my last question, in terms of like, for example, like junior roles, do you have any like programs or initiatives within your organizations to kind of like maybe mentor or train or help promote junior roles into more like, I guess, mid-range roles, like help them grow in their career?
Go ahead, Rhett.
So co-op programs, I don't know if that applies to anyone here, but with regards to personal growth and career growth, every associate gets a budget to spend in whatever way drives your passion to accelerate your career. So in addition to that dedicated budget, we do performance goals. They're not everyone. When I hear goals and setting goals, I'm like, not another thing. But these are great. The framework is built on a great collaborative approach to align what you're already doing, but then taking it another 10, 20, 30%, and just doing everything that I can as a manager to support you there. So it's a huge focus. And one of your questions as a candidate should be, how do you support career growth? And tell me the tangible ways you do so. Because a lot of organizations don't prioritize that.
Great tip. And I hope everybody's writing that down today for their next interview. There's a follow-up question you can ask when you're in an interview. Great. Anyone else want to add on to that?
Yes, I would love to. I'm very excited. We've just launched our first ever mentorship program at Spare. So we actually launched it yesterday. So brand new. And we've matched a ton of mentors to mentees. Today we matched everybody. And it was just amazing to be able to see everybody come in and not only, what can this mentorship program do for me, but also what can I do for other people at Spare in order to mentor and grow them. So it's been just honestly like heartwarming to see people want to support other people's career development, even if they're not in the same team, they're not their manager, they have no direct connection to that person. They could be in completely different fields, different areas, and still wanting to support their career growth. So it's been incredible to see that take flight. It's been something that I've been really putting a lot of work into and planning and wanting to do for a long time. So I'm really excited that we've launched that and we can support everyone's growth internally, in addition to, budgets for learning and development and things like that. But I also think that there's so much that can be gained from people within the organization as well. So I'm excited to see how that goes. Just a little plug for something we've been working on.
Well, congratulations on your recent launch yesterday. That's so exciting. And what a valuable program, a valuable initiative to offer your colleagues. Fantastic. And over at Encepta, do you have any similar like programs or initiatives?
Yeah, we partner a lot with universities to do co-op programs and practicum projects. So we actually just had some students from VIU in Nanaimo work on a GIS-based project for us, and we ended up hiring one of them directly from the practicum. So that's just one way we're kind of supporting that growth. And then one of the things I mentioned in kind of like the opening pitch about Encepta was our young professionals group. And it's a networking group where we host like lunch and learns, webinars, in-person networking sessions where you can meet people who might be in similar or different specializations as you, and just get to know what options there are out there, and maybe get some tips and tricks about going maybe from your EIT to your PEnd, or acquiring your PMP or any other credentials. So those are some of the ways that we're supporting the transition from like junior to intermediate employees here.
Fantastic. Yeah, co-op is such a valuable experience. And yeah, that gives hope to future co-op students that they could get a position at Encepta. Fantastic. All right. I see, Sophie, you've got your hand raised. Feel free to ask your question.
Great. This is a question for Erin, just to follow up on the mentorship program. First of all, congratulations. That's super exciting. And as a junior web developer, like mentorship is something I am looking for. And so just curious if you could speak a little bit more to what that program looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I am happy to talk more about it, Sophie. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. So basically what we did is we launched the program requirements. We had mentors and mentees sign up with whether they'd like to be a mentor or a mentee or both. A lot of people signed up to be both, which is amazing. And basically that they agree to the requirements of being a mentor or a mentee. So we had a list of requirements in terms of, timing and making sure you're available to connect, and make sure that you're listening empathetically and giving feedback in the format that we give feedback at Spare. So everybody has agreed to those basically terms and conditions, that you'll meet 6 times in the next 3 to 6 months, and that you'll complete a midpoint survey and a final survey. So once people signed up, we actually asked them to select as many boxes as they wanted in terms of what they could provide in support as a mentor, and everything that they were looking to gain as a mentee. And then what we did was we pulled that into an Excel document, and we matched people based on what they were able to provide as a mentor and what they were looking to gain as a mentee. So there were a ton of people who said 1 or 5 or 10 different pieces, and we tried to match as many of those as possible. We also looked at the level stage that they're at in their career. So we tried to partner people who are in senior roles with people who are in management or staff positions, partner people who are in who are doing an internship with us with someone that maybe is a bit more junior, so that even those people who are brand new in their career have the opportunity to mentor other people who are even more brand new in their career. So it was amazing just to see those different levels kind of take place, and everybody has been matched with a mentee and a mentor. I was a little bit nervous that we would have a ton of mentees and not a lot of mentors, but we have an amazing group that's really just shown me that they're excited and interested about sharing their time and their expertise and supporting the growth and development of other people at Spare. even if it's not necessarily this really tangible personal gain for them. It's something that they want to do in order to support the growth of the company and support the growth of their colleagues. So it's been amazing to see everybody sign up for that. I connected everybody today, and the reception to each person's mentor and mentee has been so positive. Everybody is just over the moon about who they were matched with. And I love to see it. So yes, it's been great so far. It hasn't started yet. We just kicked it off, but it's been great so far.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Sophie.
Awesome. Okay, I know we are slowly running out of time today, so if we have any last questions from our audience, now is the time to ask them. Otherwise, I'll start to wrap up this panel. So if we have any last questions, any last takers? Okay, I guess I'll take that as a no. But what I'll do is I'll leave the floor open to Monique, Erin, and Rhett to leave any, lasting words of wisdom, some advice, some thoughts. So I'll leave that open to you to share anything that you want to share. Maybe something that we didn't get to today. This will be your time to share it.
Come with questions.
Mm-hmm.
A good hiring manager will allot time for you to ask questions. Come with more questions than than you might think. Things like how the company supports internal movement, career development. The important question is, what's next steps? When can I expect a response? And don't be afraid to follow up. Proactivity stands out, and it keeps your name at the top of the inbox.
Great tips. Thank you so much, Rhett. And maybe over to Monique, if you have any words you wanted to finish off with today.
Well, thanks everyone for coming out and all of the questions. And also just wanted to say, if you were nervous and let us know, we couldn't tell, or if you were too nervous to ask a question at all, it's okay. Consider these kind of workshops and sessions safe spaces. No one's gonna message you on LinkedIn after and be like, you looked nervous. We're fine. We're all here to kind of experience the same thing, get to know each other, network, and just have a positive interaction, even if it is virtual. So thanks again for everyone, and feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I'll post my URL in the chat box here.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Monique, for those words. I couldn't agree more. I like to think of there's no such thing as a wrong question because it starts a conversation. So, if you're nervous, what have you got to lose? Just go for that question. Okay, Erin, last but not least, if you have any lasting words of advice or anything you want to share with us today, go for it.
Thanks, Chelsea. I think Monique and Rhett did an amazing job at their last words. Couldn't agree more with everything that they've said. The other thing that I would add is, to Rhett's point, asking questions and being interested, just showing your passion for it, really, really elevates you to the top of the list, to the top of mind, and really showcases that you're excited about the company. That's not something that's necessarily important to every company, but that is definitely something that is important to smaller companies like us, because every single person at the company really truly cares, and that's something that continues to be important as you grow and scale. So come with that passion, and try again. It may not be the right time now. We may have closed a role. Things may be moving really quickly, but always, continue to reach out, be connected on LinkedIn, follow the company and see what they're doing, and apply again. There's no harm in applying again, and again, keeping that interest alive and keeping your name at the top of the list.
Perfect. Great lasting words of advice. Okay, Erin, Monique, and Rhett, it was an absolute pleasure to have you all three on the panel today. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. If anyone is looking for work or new opportunities, check out the links in the chat. I believe there are some links at the top and some in the middle for Aquatic Informatics, Encepta, and Spare's hiring pages. And I've noticed some LinkedIn links as well, so check those out. And don't forget to join us on June 7th at the beginning of next month for our next guest speaker panel series with Realtor.com, Tableau, and Vizier. I'll get that straight when I meet them. All right, so this spring we'll be running this series every 3 weeks, so we'll get to meet speakers from various industries a little more frequently. Lastly, you can always shoot me an email with any questions to events@bcjobs.ca. Thank you so much for joining us and hope to see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chelsea, for hosting.
Thanks, Chelsea.
My pleasure. Okay, have a great rest of your week, everybody. It was great to meet you all. And thanks to those of you who've returned from previous panels. Well done.